Hey, did you know that Disney brought out 7 major movies in the year of 2023, and only 2 of them were actually original? When it comes to Disney, it's all about the reboots, the sequels, and the reinterpretations. That is just the state of the industry right now, and it's very much going to be the case going forwards. We know this, right? Everything's just reboots and nostalgia bait, but I don't know if you really know how far this nostalgia bait is still going, so today I'm stringing up a list of upcoming movies that are all just sequels and redos again and again from franchises you probably know, but didn't know they were getting another installment. Now, just recently, we did all the upcoming movies for 2024, and most of these movies I'm listing are way beyond in the future. You know, a proper Marvel Phase 7 kind of approach of, they'll come out in some future year. It's in the works, that's all you need to know. And though, of course, Disney is going to be the front runner because they kind of monopolize everything and own every studio, it seems, these days, there is a chunk of things that aren't just Disney, so let's go through all of them now. In no particular order, we have Zootropolis 2. From the frontrunner studio that's meant to make an original animated musical every 2 years, and then an original non-musical every 2 years, they're stopping that too. Gone are the days, perhaps, of Big Hero 6, standing out as a surprise hit from the crowd. We're just gonna repeat the in-betweens now. Now, to be fair, at the very least, Zootropolis is a world that could very easily be expanded. In fact, it was already. There is a Disney Plus TV series called Zootropolis Plus, which is an anthology series about all the different animals going through some sort of dramas in their life. And then it all ties together at the end, which is brilliant. Each of these animals connected to the main character Judy Hopps by interacting with them in the main story. It's actually just a brilliant little piece, and to be honest, what I would consider to be the perfect representation to expand the world of Zootropolis. But no, we're getting a full-on movie as well now. After all, a project just on streaming doesn't exactly make $1 million profits. Well, it might do, but about 1 million. Now, this movie was announced by CEO Bob Iger in February of 2023. Therefore, of course, there's going to be very limited information. There certainly is no release date, but if you wanted to harbor a guess, the original Zootropolis was announced in August 2013 and then released 3 years later. Typically, when it comes to Disney's release schedule, they have a lot of empty slots in November of 2025, 26, 27, so one of those. You could take a guess at 26, why not? So 25 or 26 would line up quite nicely. Now, as you can probably expect, Jennifer Goodwin is returning as Judy Hopps, as well as Jason Bateman as Nick Wilde, with Jared Bush confirmed to be the screenwriter, which makes sense, he wrote the first one. In these early days, of course, there is no semblance of a plot actually revealed, but apparently the voice actor of Judy Hopps suggested that there could be a role reversal between Judy and Nick, or at least that's what she'd like to see, saying, "I would like to see Nick have to be the one to convince Judy that the world is worth fighting for." Meanwhile, Jason's supposed idea for a sequel was the two of us, Nick and Judy, kicking butt out there, cleaning up the streets. We're a couple of new cops out there, so bad guys, be warned. Obviously missing the far more stark and serious underlying political tones of the main movie. Leave that to someone at Disney, someone actually talented, if that's possible in this day and age of Disney. The only other news attached to this movie is that some marketing has boosted for them, since in the Shanghai Disney Resort, they announced a Zootropolis ride called Zootopia Hot Pursuit. Switching over to another studio, we then have the very awaited Shrek 5. You knew this movie existed, you just keep forgetting about it, don't you? Crazy to think that the 4th Shrek movie came out 13 years ago, and yet we're waiting still on that 5th one. Still with us waiting in development hell for whatever the hell's going on, and obviously the fact that Puss in Boots has been our side project to keep us going in the meantime. Nowadays, we do hear a couple more details, such as the fact that reportedly it's set to release in 2025. No idea when though. Although when it comes to DreamWorks release schedule, we have a lot of empty slots around the September time of 24 and 25. So September 25 is a good guess. The original cast are of course coming back, and the only real semblance of sight we've seen is the addition of the DreamWorks logo incorporating Shrek most of the time. That being said, there's still very little information about this movie. There are a handful of quotes from behind the scenes, such as the fact of all the actors basically saying they'd love to come back and do Shrek if given the chance, or doing it all the time, if possible, but that's about it. So just sit back and wait a little longer. You know you're gonna watch it eventually. So in the meantime, let's look at an entirely different corner of animation, where we have TinTin 2. I never got around to seeing the original TinTin movie, but I saw it just sort of flashing by on the TV screen every now and again. Either way, of course, with Tintin being quite a household name, at least in the books, naturally it's going to become a franchise in the movie sphere as well. Being helmed behind Peter Jackson and Steven Spielberg, they're just working on it, though it's been going through all sorts of issues. The original Tintin came out ages ago. That was in 2011, so again, 12 years old now. It's almost as old as the last Shrek movie. In fact, from the success of that original movie, they even full on decided to make a Tintin 3 as well. Just, you might have to wait another decade for that one. Now, this has just been a development hell kind of movie. Apparently, back in 2013, Spielberg was hopeful that the Tintin 2 movie would be released December 2015. Only 8 years off. and even then more. Although all the reasons for the delays in the back end have never really been confirmed. But jumping forward to 2018, and while promoting Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg came out with another update, basically saying Peter Jackson has to do the second part. Normally, if all goes well, he will soon start working on the script, as it takes 2 years of animation work on the film. For you, I would not expect to see it for about 3 years, but Peter will stick to it. TinTin is not dead. By that prediction, it would have been 2021, and we're still long past it. Though at least this time you could say that the lockdowns had an impact. Oh god, and do you think the strikes did something as well now? So though it's been in development for many, many years, it's just continuing to be delayed, going on, but hopefully being made. The passion is certainly still there. Let's just see if there's an outcome. Rolling back to Disney, and now with their nuanced, complicated side company, we have Pixar and Toy Story 5. I'm actually a bit of a defender of Toy Story 4. As much as a lot of people say that that movie certainly didn't need to exist, I really liked where the story of Toy Story 4 went, and I'm glad that it expanded the toy universe how it did. Trying to defend Toy Story 5 now, however, I think is a whole other can of worms that I don't know if I have the ability to do. Toy Story has all sorts of other expansions with its shorts and its Christmas specials and all sorts of things. I don't know how they're going to make a fifth one. Pixar, as well as Disney, has kind of been going downhill in a lot of ways recently, with a couple shining glimmers in the middle of the garbage. But this one, is just going on a little bit more. Now, this movie was also announced in February of 2023 by CEO Bob Iger, forgetting the ending where Andy says goodbye to his toys or Buzz says goodbye to Woody. Now, I guess we don't get to end this franchise until we see Woody's toy plastic physically melt off of his corpse. But of course, from a CEO perspective, it makes a lot of sense to make another one, considering Toy Story 4 did make over $1 billion. Now, prediction behind where this movie is released suggests somewhere between 2026 and 2028, but that's based on the fact that Toy Story releases become more and more staggered from the last movie, going 1995, then 4 years later to 1999, then 11 years in 2010, and then 9 years again to 2019. Now, in regards to cast, some things have been announced, as Tim Allen has said that he's returning as Buzz Lightyear. Maybe this is a Buzz Lightyear movie. That'd be interesting, right? He continues on the room front, leave Woody to have his mystical adventures out in the wild. Tim would then also go on to clarify in May of 2023 that Toy Story 5 had been worked on for a while now, saying Toy Story 5 had been kind of laid down quite a while ago, but we just couldn't get into it. Then Disney announced it about 2 months ago, so I've made friends with all the people in Toy Story, especially Tom Hanks. So for that, I'm blessed to have these friends in my life. I love that character, I love that story, so I always want to see the script. Tell you has nothing to do that it's one of the most successful animation franchises of all time, right? That being said, interestingly, Tom Hanks has not confirmed that he's returning for this movie, so maybe it is a Buzz Lightyear story. I guess that's the best way you could not ruin the ending of Toy Story 4. No official cast list has actually been released at all. Really, that's probably something I would like to see. I want to see an entirely Buzz Lightyear movie, not to be confused with the Lightyear movie, just about them trying to handle a new vacuum of power in the room of Bonnie's place. I don't need it to be split in half looking over at Woody in the Wildlands. I don't necessarily need Andy to come back from college as much as I would be intrigued. I don't know, just don't ruin the legacy of the past movies. Is that too much to ask, Pixar? We'll see. Toy Story is one of my favorite movie franchises of all time, so I'm just cautiously aware that they'll ruin it. Funny how my hype goes so far that I then start to have anti-hype out of concern. But speaking of a franchise that I am not concerned about because I don't care that much, we have, back to Disney, the Frozen saga. Of course they're making sequels of this movie, that's to be expected, right? Frozen is like the most successful Disney movie they've ever had, and even Frozen 2 made way too much money despite its poor quality. And though thankfully they have taken a little bit more of a break this time. Oh, actually no, wait, yeah, I just realized. There was a 7-year gap between Frozen 1 and 2, and it still came out that poor? Eesh. Well, either way, Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 have been officially announced, and hopefully with a little bit of extra time going into it, they can actually make something decent. But considering the last animated musical they made was Wish, I don't have the highest of hopes. But there is one shining glimmer of hope in the middle of all this. That's the fact that they do actually have the songwriters of Frozen involved in this one. So they have actually the correct talented people involved this time. Still, the logic of the Frozen world seems to be getting a little bit more muddied. I wasn't too big of a fan of the generational what have yous of the sequel too much. But hopefully they have something stitched together for it anyway. Supposedly the work done so far has left the original creators blown away. but this could very easily just be marketing. The writer and co-director of the first two movies is of course involved, with Jennifer Lee saying, "Where we're going with Frozen did not come from me. It came from an incredible person, and I've been blown away by it, and I'm just having a blast with the team." Now, Jennifer Lee here may still end up writing Frozen 3, but she is actually the chief creative officer of all of Walt Disney Animations, hence why she's involved to any degree. Now, this movie was again announced in February 2023, just like Toy Story 5 and Zootopia 2. And again, we've got gaps in the Thanksgiving week in 2024 and 2025. Now, as is kind of the standard at this point, there's been no official cast list announced just yet, but all four of the main crew have hinted that they're back. However, I don't really know where they're going to go from here, and I don't really care, but like, didn't Frozen 2 have a pretty solid ending, like righting the wrongs of their past generational ancestor problems? Elsa's fully accepted her magical side, and Anna has found her place in the world. Well, I'm surprised there's not more shorts and TV spin-offs they've made out of this whole thing. Well, though the details are of course a little bit scarce, considering Frozen 1 and 2 told one complete story, you could assume with 3 and 4 being done as a package deal, perhaps they'll tell a double-piece super story on the side. It's more Disney franchise sequeling. What do you want from me? Thank you for making it to halfway through this video. If you're liking it so far, do feel free to subscribe. If you want to hear about movie news or just background details, this is the place to find out, or give us suggestions on our Discord server. Shout at me whenever something new gets announced. Plus, we're getting real close to 500,000 subscribers, so thank you if you have been joining along the way. Anyway, back to it. Now, a movie that's maybe not quite so greedy in a sense is one that actually got announced while I was talking about its cancelled project. It's the Peanuts movie reboot. This is not set to be a sequel, and I've properly delved into this video elsewhere, so feel free to check it out if you really want to dig into it. But essentially, though that original movie was created by Fox, Fox has been deleted now, and so this is a separate project being done by Apple TV+. They, in general, have been monopolizingly holding all of the Snoopy projects, and now they're making their own thing. Made with the gracious consent of the representatives of the original source, it's another spin at it all again. And considering it's been a solid 13 years since the last one, perhaps it's a welcome one. Maybe it's capitalizing off of something old, nostalgic, and doesn't need to be interpreted into this new art form, but at the very least, it's not a sequel of something that's in the same art form. It's just doing it again. It's weird, yeah. I can't tell sometimes if I like these ideas or not. I've always been a big fan of nostalgia, so I'm the perfect nostalgia bait kind of guy, but is this a black-hearted movie idea? I don't think so. You know, it's not Frozen 4, you know? Still, it's only just been announced. We're at the very earliest point of production details. It's being made. Again, out there for the fans to enjoy if they want to see some slightly new original content with a whole iconically known legacy skin. Over to the Sony front, and though thankfully we're not getting a sequel to Mitchells vs. Machines or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, we are of course getting the third installment of the Spiderverse movies, but I think this one was already known. It was set to be a trilogy. Does that count as a cheap sequel, or is it just expanding a singular story in a way that works? Either way, it's probably one of the most anticipated upcoming animated movies, and you know it's going to try and push the boundaries again, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, so hell yeah. That's the kind of movie I can 100% get behind. Supposedly with a release date of March 2024, originally, that's definitely not going to happen. Not only is it going to take an incredible amount of animation prowess, but I mean, the last movie came out less than a year before that. But also, it then got delayed to a whole year, which at least makes a little bit more sense. But then amid the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, the whole of Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse was removed from Sony's release schedule. It's a super distant project. It probably makes sense when you look at its previous installments. Just leave it be. Let it fester for a while. You know they're going to make something brilliant when it does come out, and you know it's going to come out eventually. Speaking of something else that's probably going to come out eventually and probably makes a whole lot of sense, Paw Patrol. I don't talk about this movie franchise. I don't know if I should, but apparently there's a third one now, and I'm not surprised. To me, Paw Patrol just feels like a actually produced version of Cocomelon, probably because I'm a complete outsider boomer old man at 27. But of course, with Paw Patrol being a pretty damn successful children's movie series, it's going to be making loads of profits, and in September of 2023, they just announced it was being made. Actually announced before the second movie even came out in theaters. That's an interesting approach, but hey, I guess if you know it's successful, you know it's successful. The president of Paramount Animation and Nickelodeon Animation described Paw Patrol as remaining in a class of its own as a beloved and recognizable cultural touchstone for kids and families everywhere. So yeah, of course they're making a third one. I don't really think this comes as a surprise, but hey, at least it's nice to see it's official news. But sticking to the Nickelodeon front, we then have the next SpongeBob movie announced. There's a SpongeBob movie 4. And to be fair, I guess that shouldn't really be a surprise considering SpongeBob is still alive and still going, so of course he will in the movie sphere as well. Again with that strange 3D CGI aesthetic that they never adopted on the TV series for some reason. Said to be titled The SpongeBob Movie: The Search for SquarePants. An interesting idea if it's actually going to be a movie that doesn't include SpongeBob SquarePants because he's been kidnapped or something. All about the side characters instead. I don't know, I doubt, but it's something. Now this movie was actually first announced in August of 2021, with the Nickelodeon CEO Brian Robbins mentioning that there's a new SpongeBob film in the works. However, it wasn't officially confirmed until February of 2022. Originally slated for release in May of 2025, but then later delayed to December 2025. Supposedly described as being the series' biggest film yet, no other details are known. But SpongeBob is far from dead, and even though the SpongeBob movies seem to get procedurally more and more worse as they come out, maybe fourth time's the charm. I don't know. I still just like the fact that the original SpongeBob movie is seen as being the official ending to the SpongeBob story. Whatever SpongeBob does for the next 30 years will still end up finishing in the plot of the first SpongeBob movie. And that's just great to hear. That's when SpongeBob really ended. Keep it as a headcanon. Because in reality, there's another SpongeBob movie being made, as the next movie we're talking about is the Sandy Cheeks movie. Announced at practically the same time, we have Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. Going through a handful of rewrites on the script, this movie is set to eventually release on Netflix. Initially in 2023, but that kind of didn't happen. Now it's been pushed to 2024. And though this is clearly a Sandy Cheeks movie, SpongeBob's right there. So it's just more of the same. It's like the Patrick Show. Although, actually, no, that doesn't have SpongeBob, so what do I know? Beyond that, there's also still 2 more untitled spin-off characters based off of the SpongeBob saga becoming movies. But these are so far in the future that there's literally a single sentence of news about it. They're in development, with intended streaming releases exclusively on Paramount+. So just kind of junk movies. Brilliant. We love it. The Cat in the Hat is being done again, this time actually animated, which might give it a chance of not being absolutely abhorrent. This was announced back in 2018 by Warner Bros. Pictures and given a release date of February 2024. However, this was pushed back later in time to 2025 or possibly 2026. At that same time, they also announced a Flintstones animated movie. Warner Bros. Is doing its Warner Bros. Thing, you know, creating animated movies, possibly against something you love, and then they'll probably delete it later on anyway. Although they did run back the whole Coyote versus Acme thing, so who knows, honestly? I have zero faith when it comes to Warner Brothers, and to be honest, I don't have high hopes for the Cat in the Hat movie either. Alongside that, they also supposedly have animated movies based off of Thing 1 and Thing 2, really just spreading out all the ideas out of a single source you can, and Oh, the Places You'll Go. It's just all of them at the same time, going a little mad in the distant future. This is to a T the kind of greedy sequel franchise bloating that I was initially making this video about. This is the perfect source for it. Warner Brothers greed, all to lead up to a giant tax break. I'm not excited for these movies, but they're gonna be brilliant marshmallow fuel to laugh at these terrible productions. Maybe? I don't know, it's been in production for years. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And on a similar front, we then of course have the Avatar saga. Kind of animation, kind of not, you know, where it kind of blurs. Having very much the Star Wars approach from Disney of just making more and more every 2 to 4 years, whatever. Announcing an Avatar 3 and an Avatar 4 on top of course, the Avatar 2 that we already saw. Is it warranted? Is it good? Is it needed? Is it gonna be grand? I don't think so. It's just greedily making franchise bait out of nothing. But I mean, obviously it makes sense considering the extortionate money profits that there are behind this franchise. I never saw the sequel, I barely remember the first, I'm probably not going to watch the third and the fourth, it's just not my cup of tea. I think when a sequel has a 3 and a 4 at the end of it, it starts to get particularly more fatiguing. When I hear about mumbled news about Yogi Bear 2 maybe being made, but probably not, I don't feel as passionately thinking this is a greedy cash grab. The 3 and 4 on Avatar before even a second movie came out, ugh. That is this to a T. And though I did have other notes for other things that Disney is working on, apparently CEO Bob Iger did also make a statement about scaling back on new franchise content, despite all the Disney productions we've already talked about in this video. But there was at one point a live-action Aladdin sequel that has apparently been cancelled and pulled back. So hey, it's not as bad as it could be. So for the final movie I've got on this long list that went on a little bit longer than I expected it to, even despite this prompt, God, this industry is greedy, we then have Detective Pikachu 2. They're making a sequel to the greatest Pokemon movie of all. No, actually, no, there's been loads of Pokemon movies and some of them are better. Still, yes, the live-action CGI hybrid movie that garnered a lot of attention, of course, is getting a sequel. If Disney isn't the most greediest franchise-based company in the world, Pokemon certainly is. I despise the Pokemon company, but I did like their movie. Now, this sequel movie has gone under some changes, a little bit of development reshuffling, such as directing roles being swapped out, as well as screenwriting duties. Although, as is pretty typically the case here, again, the release date is certainly not cemented in stone, with some predicting maybe not until 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even further beyond it. Now, the people behind the Detective Pikachu movie is Legendary, who received the live-action Pokemon movie rights back in 2016, and when it came to announcing their first live-action Pokemon movie, they released it that same year, so they're very good at keeping things quiet and taking things a little differently to the normal movie studio standards. And when it came to the sequel, they announced that it would be in the works months before even the first movie came out. They knew they had a hit on their hands, and they certainly are swinging slightly differently. Now, the latest peep of news we heard about this movie at all was near the start of 2023, where they announced they were in talks with a fresh creative team, which to me doesn't sound very good. Sounds like they were restarting again. But sure, yeah, whatever. Perhaps hearing that, maybe this movie's going through more development hell than expected. Maybe the reason they're keeping it under wraps is because there's not much to see. Add on to the fact that the strikes would have affected this movie, and this thing's probably a distant idea that'd be beloved when it eventually rolls out. And this is the movie I don't hate the concept of. Again, I think it's just because it's only got 2 on the end of it, but also I'm not surprised. It makes a lot of sense. Pokemon is so successful, it's so profitable, and honestly, I will eat it all up. I hate the mainline games. I hate anything the Pokemon company touches. Anything as a side project. I love the idea of Pokemon Concierge coming out on Netflix soon. This as well. Exactly my kind of taste. There's no announcement of the cast, not even Ryan Reynolds or Justice Smith. Everything is as vague as it could be, as this movie could very well be as far away as maybe even Shrek 5. Regardless, if you're a fan of any old movies, and by that I mean anything released in the last 25 years, you're in luck because they're all getting sequels. Whether they be just next year or way off to 2028, there is at least just a hint of the movie industry doing its age-old thing of turning back time to repeat the old. A lot of these movies I like the sound of, and a lot of them are just more of the same. You can't name a better pairing than the movie animation industry and upcoming distant sequel baits of franchise bloatings. But tell me, which of these movies are you most interested in, and which ones do you think are the absolute worst? Any of these a surprise to you? Anything you think I've missed, because I probably have? Or anything you'd like to see that's not here? Tell me all your thoughts on the world of the distant future. Maybe by the time Shrek 6 comes out, we'll all have flying cars. We'll see. For now, though, I'll be ending it off here. My name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a little bit.